Hello and welcome to Writers Morning Out, a free gathering of writers of any genre, of any level, sponsored by the North Carolina Writers Network. If you are not a member of the North Carolina Writers Network, it's a wonderful resource for writers in the area. So especially if you're new, this is a great tool to have at your disposal. I will put out in the chat the link to the network website, so you can have that in just a moment. A couple of things coming up with the network. They are offering an online class in February. I'm not sure which day it is, but it's a class for a study in linked story collections. I just did their class on Thursday on dialogue, and it was fantastic. So I highly recommend their online classes. There is also the Randall Jarrell Poetry Competition, and the deadline for that is March 1st. And then the Thomas Wolfe Fiction Prize, the deadline for that one is January 30th. So a couple of opportunities to submit your writing there. You can also check out their book buzz. It's all the recent publications from members of the North Carolina Writers Network. So it's a good opportunity to get to know your fellow writers in the state. And then this week, we have Carol joining us. Lovely Carol Phillips. She is one of our own. She's been with us forever. I love Carol and her work. She is the author of several works of poetry and nonfiction, including her upcoming memoir, Hit Over the Head, A Cautionary Tale. She posts regularly on Substack, and I'll put the link to her Substack in the chat as well, and is an invaluable member and contributor to Writers Morning Out and the North Carolina Writers Network. You can learn more about her at carolphillips.com, and I'll also put that in the chat. So I would just ask that unless anybody has a question before we start, if you just put yourself on mute so that we don't have any external noise, and then I will hand it over to Carol.
Thank you, Penny. And hello, everybody. Good to see you now. I would like to make one correction in Penny's introduction of me. I have written poetry, but I have no collections. So, excuse me. So, this is kind of our annual thing now of kind of checking in and seeing where we are at the beginning of each year. In the past, we've talked about setting SMART goals, those specific, measurable, achievable, or attainable, relevant, and time-bound, right? We've also talked about why we write, anywhere from our own pleasure to publishing the great North American novel. We've talked about what we dream for, hope, yearn in our writings. We've talked about what we intend when we write. And we've talked about what part of the process brings us pleasure in writing. So today I thought we could talk about change. If we want to change anything about our writing practice, and if so, in what ways? How we write, where we write, what we write, why we write. But first I have a question for you. And that is this the right time for you to change? Up until 1582, people around the world considered the beginning of the year to coincide with the spring equinox. In 1582, when when Pope Gregory introduced his calendar with the leap year, and suddenly July 1st became the beginning of the year. Even so, Great America and the American colonies continued to celebrate the new year on March 25th. So I'm going to open this up with a question for you all. When do you feel the time for change? Now, the beginning of spring, summer? I know somebody who figured that thought that it was never a good time to ride a bike until it was at least 80 degrees outside. So when do y'all think that it's the time for change for you? Anyone want to take that question up?
I always go to my birthday as kind of a time to have my personal start of the year.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I do too. And my birthday's on New Year's Eve. So I have a perfect excuse to use my birthday and the calendar year that many cultures use as the end of the year. My birthday year ends and begins on December 31st. And then I have the whole world to, many people in the world anyway, start their year over. What I also like, and because I'm so kind of connected to the universe, astrologically, I love astronomy, and we start gaining light in teeny tiny increments, right after about the 24th of December. So by January 1st, if you're outside and you pay attention, you can already see that you've gotten a couple of minutes of light back in the afternoon. That is, if it's not cloudy and snowing or whatever it does where you live. But so yeah, I connect it like Penny to my birthday.
Margaret?
Yes. Well, having been a school principal and teacher for umpteen years, it's the beginning of or midsummer usually because that's when you're, well, actually before that, but that's when you're planning for the new school year. So that's that's when I usually think about making changes.
Anyone else? Kate, do you have any ideas on when you like to change?
Well, not really. It usually just seems to happen in the winter, when we're all sort of hibernating and things start to go on in my head and so for me it's just winter. It's not necessarily the new year, but winter, that cold time.
Tom, how about you?
Well, I think change is a very difficult thing to do. And of course, life is changing all the time. Even day by day, you don't know what to expect when you get up in the morning. But I think I'm with Louise about the 21st of December because that's the I guess you call it the winter solstice, and that's when everything seems to start to come back to life. And so that's a good time to really look at, I think, to do some writing and to change and look into different kinds of writing too. So, which I've done thanks to Tracy Crow.
Yeah.
But
For
yes.
Stephanie and what's the other new one? Karen? Tracy Crow is provides sessions on craft on the last Thursday of every month in the afternoon, and they're really very, very good. Stephanie, do you want to say anything about when you think of change?
Sorry, had to unmute, had a problem there. For me, it's the same birthday. My birthday's January 2nd. So it just hits that time of season where it seems like there's a looking forward. Like you said, the daylight has changed, and suddenly there's this new hope. The winter's moving past. There's light ahead, and but I try to kind of hold it loosely throughout the year because change can come at any time, and just to keep plans open to change, I guess, for better ideas.
Yeah. Karen, do you want to say anything?
I don't know that I have a particular period of time. It's just kind of when the stars align and everything's there to make it happen, and not stars astrologically, but when all the pieces come together, I guess.
Right. Yep. Deb? You have to,
There
yeah,
we
there
go.
you go.
Sorry, I'm unmuting. I agree with Kate. It's during the winter when everybody's kind of hibernating and things have gotten a little slow, and you have time to look, maybe during the rest of the year you're going, 90 miles an hour and you can't stop to do it. But during the winter when it's slower and everybody's in that kind of maybe more contemplative space, that's a great time for me to take a look at what's working, what's not. And that usually is in January, during January. So great timing, Carol.
Bonnie? you want to say anything, Bonnie, or do you want to pass?
Oh, me?
Yes.
You know, I don't think I decide to make changes. I kind of respond to other people suggesting I make a change.
Yeah, there's also that. Michael?
Yeah, I usually, you know, very similar
Oh, except
to,
I forgot that there were two of you. So,
oh, I'm sorry. Who
well,
are you?
no, it's my fault. So maybe Michael Friedman, because he's
Okay. I apologize
no,
if
no,
I
it's fine.
jump in. No, I agree with Karen. I usually change whenever I get into a rut with my writing or at the end of a project, like when something's out for review, if I'm working on my novel, I'll switch over and do poetry for a while. So, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Michael Field.
Right. Yeah, no, I started to say I'm a curmudgeon, so I don't change. And even if I were to say I was going to change, I'm a procrastinator, so I would never get to it.
What about you, Richard?
So the idea of birthdays is a good time to change for me. Mine's at the end of August. I start to basically say, what have I done so far this year? And have I met the goals I wanted to achieve? Oftentimes, like Michael Field was saying, it has not happened, and therefore um, I put off the change, and the New Year's is always 3 months later and a good time to get the ball rolling again. So I guess I do a self check at the end of August and get things moving with plans set in. We being a school teacher, we begin our year sometime late July, early August, so it all kind of coincides too. Thanks.
Julia?
I'm seasonal. How I mean, like you get out your sweaters or your winter boots, or you put those things away and you find your sandals. So I think that's sort of I mean, obviously birthdays, and mine's in November, so that kind of is like end of the year. I can kind of think it through, but I think I do. I guess easily bored, so I have to change things up. It's like, so seasonally is a good time to do that. So I'll often read a different kind of book or start something different, or freshen up. I think I tend to like want to freshen things rather than completely change them. But for me, yeah, it's weather related, seasonal.
Kara, would you like to say anything? Am I pronouncing your name right?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, it's Kara.
Kara.
Yes, I definitely hit a momentum December, January. That's when I started my novel. Something about I feel fresh at the new year. And then I have a momentum into January. It follows through, I feel like almost the whole rest of the year. So I think for me, it's cyclical, but around December, January.
Good. I have to say that sometimes I have problems speaking English and even saying my name. And often people hear me say my name is Kara instead of Carol. So
That's why I was making sure that you said Kara.
Diana, would you like to say something?
Sure, thanks. I usually change when what I'm currently doing isn't working for me anymore. And if I've tried it enough times and keep batting my head against the wall, I say, okay, stop, and then take a new direction or a new tack. So I don't think of it as seasonal or time driven. I think of it as situational driven change.
And Penny, I haven't asked you. Oh, I
I
did.
I I go with the birthdays. Yeah, but I agree with everybody else. The seasons are a nice time and you never know what life is going to throw at you. So I think you have to just be somewhat flexible. You know, like Bruce Lee said, be like water, my friend, and just navigate accordingly.
I tend to be kind of like many of you kind of throughout the year, but I agree with Deb that in the winter time is a time to just kind of slow down and really take an assessment of where I am and what I'm doing. So yeah. Okay. So the next question is, do you want to change at this point? Is there anything that you think that you would like to change in your writing practice? It could be why you write or how you write, where you write. Are you happy with your own process at this point? So would anybody like to start off on that one?
Yeah, I will.
Okay.
You know, I wonder if the question is, you know, do we change our lives or writing style, or does life change it for us? And being an older guy, it seems like life has the upper hand. So I agree with what Penny just said. You know, you never know what's gonna turn up or where a writing's gonna come from or why. So I'll add that to the mix.
Very good. Anyone else? Louise? And then Margaret.
I had a goal of getting my novel done by the end of the year, but my move last spring really got in the way of that. So I didn't make that goal. Anyway, I did reassess during December as getting ready for Christmas and visits from family and all of that really got in the way. And also my walk in the morning, which inevitably took me to a Starbucks where I got to know more and more people, and I was spending more and more time there rather than a 5-minute turnaround for my cup of tea. It was suddenly I wasn't getting back until an hour later. So I made the decision that as of the first, once the holidays were over, that I would no longer go to Starbucks Monday through Friday, that I needed to change my habits so that I got back to my desk early enough in the morning to not let other things snowball and then, and get in the way of my writing, because it's really important to me to finish this novel. And I realized that I had to put a time frame on top of my morning, change my habits a little bit because I had slid into being sloppy about it. And I felt like I needed to take an executive decision about my own habits. So I did make a change January 1st.
And that's working out well for you now?
Yeah. The green marks are going back on the calendar.
Oh, good.
Which I get a green mark, I get a green check when I've written enough hours each day. So I'm very careful. I don't give myself a green check unless I deserve it. So sitting down early in the morning does make a difference. It seems like I don't lose track of the day. I help with pickup and drop off with grandchildren and things like that. And, it seems like these days, every other week there's an early release and there's a doctor appointment, there's this and that. So I often get called away. So the trick for me is to get to my desk simply earlier in the morning. And I had to make a decision to discipline myself to do that. And it's working. Yeah.
Good. Margaret?
Yeah. Well, I was fortunate enough to be invited to join a group of Japanese short form poetry writers whose goal is innovation and change in haiku and other poetry forms and collaboration. And I loved the idea of collaborative writing. I've done a bit of it. And the really good thing about this, besides the fact that I'm getting to know a lot of writers better or a few better and their style and to work with them, is that there are deadlines. And everything has a fairly short timeline because we're trying to accomplish a lot within 1 year. And so having those deadlines forces me to sit down and write when I might be thinking of doing something else. So it's exciting, it's fun, it's innovative. That's part of what we're looking at. It's forming, collaborating with writers of different genres. So we develop a new, I don't even know what you call it. We aren't that far yet. But so that's part of, for me, why this group is really interesting. Because it's a way to think about collaborating with people who write in a different genre entirely. So I'm excited about it.
I'd like to mention now that Margaret is going to be talking about the Japanese short forms in March, and it's March 14th, is that right? Or
The 21st.
21st?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I personally am really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be very interesting.
And I think one of our group members that is collaborating with me is going to lives in Pittsburgh and is going to join us in this group. So yeah.
Very good. Very good. Anybody else?
Well, I'm on the eve of retirement, so everything's going to change. I have a whole routine where I get at least 3 hours a day during the week while I'm working to write, and then on the weekends more like 7 or 8 hours. But all that's gonna is gonna have to be plotted out and changed when I have that time, because some of it I've got to devote to help my husband take care of his mother because he needs a break. So, I'm going to have to work around that, but a lot of changes are coming down the pike for me very soon.
That's very exciting. Are you looking forward to it?
Very much so.
When will you be, when is the date?
March 13th.
Very good. Very good.
I'll share.
Okay, good.
I think, well, today's the first time I've actually put my idea out in the world to people who don't know me. So this is, I think, the start of my creative writing journey. I think the most difficult thing will be for me is that I write technically during the day for grants, and it'll be changing that mode of technical writing to more creative flow. And so I think that'll be the change I experience this year.
Can you get a quick, sorry, let's say, get a quick walk in first.
Yeah.
I like that idea. Thank you.
I used to do technical writing, and I at one point I tried to bring in some creativity to it because I was writing user manuals and software documentation, and it can get very dry. So, but occasionally it worked. Somebody else? Anybody else?
Well, I'm going to be writing not in response to my own ideas so much as in response to what my editor is asking for, because I've taken a step toward publication. And oh boy, is that different.
Yeah, because you're responding to specific ideas and questions, right?
Exactly.
Yep, yep. So, anyone else?
I will say that in May, from the spring conference last year, I found the accountability workshops, which is a group of writers from all over the world. And Tessa Fontaine is a local North Carolina author, and she teaches at is it Williams College? No. Wilson College over in Asheville. And she has been fantastic. And she's leading, I don't know if anybody's ever done The Artist's Way, but that was our January book selection. So we're doing, instead of the 12-week program, we're condensing it to 6 weeks. But I've been doing that and writing 3 pages of morning pages every morning just to get the clutter out of my brain before I sit down to write my novel, which has been really helpful. So just that little subtle change and just having the accountability of working with other writers and keeping yourself on track to meet your goals has been really helpful.
Anyone else? I'll start calling on people and seeing what we get. Stephanie, do you want to say anything? You don't have to, by the way, if you don't want to. Okay. Michael Fried, Field.
Yeah, I mentioned this at the check-in last week. I defined myself as not a poet, but I started writing poetry last year, so I joined a poetry group at the beginning of the year. So we get three each session. We get 3 prompts and write 3 short poems, and then the idea is that you then take them outside of the group and improve on them outside of the group, and then bring them back. So I'm in the process of doing that.
Very good. Yeah, I like the idea of having that kind of timeline and whatnot. It keeps me on track. Yeah. Richard, I like your pooch.
Yeah, he's very interested in you all. He had to get up here. I'm new to this, so I'm just gonna listen. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are you new to the group then? Have you seen?
I'm new to the group. I'm an aspiring author. I'll put it that way, in by faith. So
Okay.
I'm here to learn from you all.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Michael Friedman?
Hi. Yes, I too am a technical writer, or was a technical writer. I retired in at the end of March last year. And so I found that to be very liberating, and gave me the opportunity to really do a deep dive into reading and also writing on a much more relaxed basis. So I don't feel a lot of pressure, but by the same token, I do try to be disciplined with writing. For if I'm working on a novel, I try to do 1,000 words a day. If I'm working on poetry, I either try to write, at least start one new poem, or go back and work on existing poems. So, yeah.
Thank you. Julia?
I don't think I'm changing. I mean, I'm finished one project, so I'm working on a new one. And I don't know that I could change the way I do things. I know, like, I don't write in order. I know, like, I'm writing a new well, it's a novel I started before the one I just finished. But I'm not writing the sections in order. I have the kind of basic outline in my head. And I admire people who just go in like chronological order, but I'm like, oh, I suddenly have an image that works for this thing. Or that's usually where I begin, is like an image, and I went to the Burlington Carousel on a little field trip, and there was a carousel animal of a cat holding a fish in its mouth. And that was like, that's the perfect image for this chapter. And so I just went to that. So I don't know that I can change. I mean, I think part of me being restless is kind of mixing it up. It's like, this is where my brain is today. So I don't know. I don't know if it works, but it's what I am. By the way, I didn't write technical writing, but I used to teach technical writing, which is kind of funny. But but I actually did do some technical editing and stuff too, but that was my primary thing. And I was ready to, though I learned a lot from my students, I was ready to stop reading papers about roundabouts and cement mixtures. So for all of you in there, I know what you're talking about.
Kara, would you like to say anything?
So someone else mentioned they moved this year. I also moved over the summer, and I'm also working full time and writing for my side hustle for now. So I think for me, I needed to kind of lower the benchmark of what was success for me for right now. And I was listening to a podcast recently, and because sometimes for me it's motivation and time. I'm struggling with both, and sometimes I just have to get my momentum going. And what they were suggesting is, um, even if you just set a timer for 60 seconds, you work for 60 seconds, and then you build on that, and you build on that. So I think for me, some days it was hard to even get started because I thought, well, if I can't do a whole hour or write this many hundred or 1,000 words, what's the point of even starting? So I think for me, it's no, even if I do 60 seconds, and then with that, I'll build into something else. So I'm kind of changing more my mindset around it this year and trying to strive for any kind of perfection right now.
Very good. I always say trust the process, whatever that process is for you, to trust it. I knew somebody who wrote her first novel, waiting in line to pick up her child from school. So she literally wrote it in 10 to 15 minute segments. So, because that was the only time she had. Diana, would you like to say anything?
Well, I've started this novel many times now, and I just was struggling with it. So I'm currently taking a class to put it into a new, I don't know if you'd call it format or genre, and using the same characters and incidences and stories and going from novel to screenwriting. So I'm going to see if I can't shift, if that brings out the motivation or puts it all together for me. But from a novel standpoint, for some reason, and it's not my first one, I've written other manuscripts, so I don't know what I've hit a wall with this one. So I'm changing genres.
Interesting. Yeah. I, I know of changing point of view and that sort of thing, but switching the whole format of how you're writing the genre, I'll be interested to see how that works out for you. It sounds like some of us are in the process of changing, and other of us are just very happy of where we are in our writing process, in our writing practice, which is always good. And that's kind of what I have. I don't have any other questions. So I will end, and I'll open it up for general discussion. But I would like to end this with a quote from Baha Suhartha, and that's, if after mindful consideration you choose to do something, do it fully and completely. If you don't honestly immerse yourself into your choices, you won't be able to fully recognize their values. I think that that's something that is always good for me to remember too. It's,
Carol,
anyway,
thank you so much. This was wonderful, and I'm happy to open this up to a discussion and kind of see. I know we've got some newer members of the group, so if y'all have any questions for us, or if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about yourselves, maybe what you write, where you're coming from, we're happy to welcome you into the group, and we could all, I hate to do goal setting necessarily, but if there's something that you want to put out into the universe as your intention for the year, sometimes just speaking it out loud will manifest it. So I'm happy to open the discussion up to that if anybody would like. Yeah, Margaret. Oh, Margaret, you're muted.
Okay. I just have a comment. Carol, that was really helpful. I'd never really thought about it before until you asked those questions. And so thank you. I appreciate that. I'll
Oh,
give it some more thought.
thank
Thanks.
you. Good, good. I'm glad.
I agree with that. Because I was sitting here thinking, gosh, what is it I'm actually trying to change this year? And maybe you guys can give me some input on this. I am researching how to make a series of deadlines that aren't just arbitrarily set. They're actually based on some kind of criteria that, doesn't make me overestimate or underestimate how much time is needed, that sort of thing. See, what have you guys experience been with this?
Yeah, Louise.
Deb, I oftentimes work backwards from the final deadline, whatever that is. So if you've got let's put July 1st, just for a number, you've got a July 1st deadline, and you know you have to have 200 pages done by then. So just to put numbers on things, then work backward to set your mini deadlines so that you have an idea of how many literally pages per month or pages per week, and then finally pages per day, so that you have a sense of really when you sit down to work, what you need to do that day. You're not overwhelmed by the whole project, which is good. You're not overwhelmed by the 200 number, but you do have a real accurate sense of the fact that every day between now and July, I must write 2 pages. And if you don't write them today, that means tomorrow it's 4. So that way you've got a kind of you have the mini goals that lead you to the bigger goal by working backward.
Yeah, Julia.
Well, Louise's method reminds me of Bird by Bird. Does anybody know that book? Yeah. And I remember I was in undergrad, and one of my professors, I was saying, like, because, you're struggling to write. I was an English major, as it sounds like a lot of you were. You struggle to write those 10, 12, 20-page papers every quarter. Yep. Yeah, Annie Lamont. I couldn't remember her. Lamont, I think it is. But yeah, and then I used to tell my students that because they would have long projects they would have to do, and that one of her brothers, I guess, had to write a book on birds of America, and he just was so overwhelmed by the size of the project. And so the father's advice was you build it bird by bird. And I remember my professor saying, you don't write a book, Julia, you write a chapter, and then you write another chapter. And I think that helped me a lot. Because I was, like everybody else, struggling to write when I was working full time, and my head was full of student papers and all that stuff and life. I felt like I never got very far. And when I retired, I thought I need to put this together because I had a lot of bird by bird, and I was like, wow, I have this many words. And so I didn't even realize how much I'd actually written in total until I started putting my bird by bird sections together. And I was like, wow. And it turned out to be 86,000 words, which is the sweet spot for like a novel, and I'm like, oh, but the idea of like, oh God, I'm writing a whole novel is a little crazy and overwhelming, I think. But that bird by bird, or chapter by chapter, or scene by scene, whatever it is. So, and I think that's how I work. I'm like, well, I'm not thinking about everything right now. I'm just thinking about this thing. I mean, you have to put it all together later, but and for me, that was the other thing I think that helped me the most. Was I have real perfectionist tendencies. There's a good side to that, but the bad side is you never finish things. Um, and or you just like you're not happy with what's on the page. And there was a a rhetorician named Peter Elbow who wrote an essay about how to write. It was for students, how to write an essay, and this was very helpful to me. And I didn't know it, of course, till I was a grad student and teaching these students. But it was the idea that there is a difference between a no good, rotten piece of writing and no writing at all. And that was like a little, a little light bulb in my head. It's like, oh, so I can write something badly and fix it later. I really did not understand that writers revise. I thought it poured out the way. I mean, okay, some don't. They're but more brilliant. But I mean, I just thought it poured out beautifully for them. So learning that I could do it badly and fix it, and I could do it piece by piece, meant that I actually got it done, and that was like, I hate to say, but like a revelation to me. Like, oh, okay.
Annie,
Yeah.
one time about, excuse me, you had a source of getting involved with an accountability group.
Yes.
You worked with other people and formed your own deadlines, but they weren't necessarily arbitrary because you had to then account to somebody else whether you
Yeah. So
finished it.
we have a contract that we sign with our coaches. And yeah, we say, every day, and it doesn't have to be, it's not set in stone, but I would like to write 500 words a day. I would like to finish X number of chapters by the end of the month. However you want to set it for yourself. And they're really big on setting small goals that are manageable, just like you mentioned, Carol, at the beginning, small, manageable, attainable goals, because it's very easy to get overwhelmed, especially if you're writing a novel. My gosh, a novel is it's insane when you think about it. But if you think I'm just going to write the chapter, like Julia was saying, it makes it a lot more manageable. And that little bit by bit, that bird by bird, as you build up, you get this whole aggregate of great writing when you're done. But we do have a contract that we sign, and we can amend our contract when we need to. But I will put the link in for the accountability workshops too. But this is a great group as well. Just we can all hold each other accountable by showing up the second and third Saturdays of the month and talking about our projects and putting them out into the universe. I think that's the first big step. And being a writer is one of those things that it's so isolating sometimes. So to have a group like this or any of the other groups that you all are in makes a big difference. It gets you out there and it holds you accountable, and it keeps you motivated and knowing that you're not alone in doing this. So I can't recommend it enough.
I have a
Yeah,
question.
Tom.
Thanks. As I got it, thanks to Tracy again. I got into doing some poetry, and there was a couple questions I had if somebody doing poetry could answer. But there's the term chapbook. Is there a minimum of how many poetry poems should be in a chapbook?
It depends upon the publisher, I think. I think that it can range anywhere from 20 to 40 or so. So it really depends on who's publishing it and what what your intent is. I guess I'm trying to remember. I wish Judith was here because she's
Also the length of the poem, but there was
okay.
just a company that was running a contest to give you a free chapbook, and they focused more on page limit, so they said 15 to 40 pages, which is a pretty broad range. But yeah, anything under 15, it's a trivial. But anything more than 40, it's too much for the same thing. So
20 to 40 is what I usually hear for poetry, poems.
That helps. Thank you.
Good question.
And as a prose writer, I'd like to point out that there's a greater interest now in prose chapbooks. So of a short collection of flash fiction or short stories. So, and that page limit would be what you would be aiming for.
that's what I'm working on now. Is written some on grief, so pulling those various things on grief together. And intent is to organize it as a chapbook, but it's prose. Well, some prose poetry, but prose. Yeah.
Right.
Carol, who does those? Who's asking for those? Do you know? I mean, just an example.
I've kind of broadly heard it around. The one press I know that's doing it is Bull City Press out of Durham. And some of the older people here, the people who've been here longer, might know of that press through Noah Schweitzer, Schweitzler,
Stetzer, I think.
yeah, Stetzler,
Yeah. Mhm.
who is one of the associate editors, and he always participates in our slush piles, which we run twice a year. So
Mhm.
Okay, great.
You know, a quick story. I went at the fall conference. I went to a poetry class seminar to see if I could learn something about that. And he mentioned haiku, and I guess I guess you poets know it's 5, 7, and 5. No, it varies. Okay.
I'll talk about that next month. That's the sort of a format that was put together to teach children, to give them a starting point. But that that rule is, well, it isn't. I'll just put it that way. I'll talk about that a little more, but you can ignore that.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Margaret, we are very excited to have you in March to present to our groups. So thank you for doing that. I should also mention for those of you who are new, we do in April and October, right, Carol? We have the slush pile. And if you're not familiar with what a slush pile is, you usually submit 300 words or the first page, whichever is less. And we have 3 judges, usually Tracy Crow, who we've mentioned here, and then a couple of people from Bull City Press who will read. And we have a wonderful reader who comes, she's a professional voice actress, and she comes in to read for us, and then we get feedback from the judges. So it's anonymous, so you don't, you're not out there, but it's really helpful to get feedback on your work. So look for that in April and October this year. So we've got lots of good things coming down the pipeline.
yeah, the idea.
Yeah, Margaret.
Yeah, I was just going to say to Tom, if you want some more information, if you let me know how to get in touch with you, I'll send you some info about haiku that's from the Haiku Foundation, and there is a huge library and that you can read about starting to write haiku, and people who offer instruction in that online if you want to do that. So if you let me know how to get in touch with you, I'll be happy to send it to you.
That would be great. How do I let you know how to get in touch with me?
Oh, that's a really good question, isn't it?
Yes.
You can email me and I can connect you to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
that'd be great. Thank you, Penny.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And Margaret. Yeah.
Sure.
I have a question about the chapter. I know you all are associated with the North Carolina group, but I wonder if this is a chapter of the North Carolina group, and if I have to be a member of the North Carolina group to participate in this event. And
This event is open to everybody. I mean, we encourage you to join the North Carolina Writers Network. It's a really wonderful resource, and that's who we are sponsored by. But that's up to you. It's a nice group to have. There are other chapters of the North Carolina Writers Network. We do the Central Piedmont, but again, I think since COVID and since everything's virtual now, we've really cast our net pretty wide. But this particular group is welcome to all. Yeah, especially Louise. She's out in LA. So when we say we cast it wide, we mean it. But it's a free group that's open to all writers of all genres and all levels.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Louise.
I don't know, Tom, where your comment about the haiku was going to go, but I wanted to mention to you that in the MFA program that I completed out here at Mount St. Mary's, regardless of what genre you were intending maybe to specialize in by the end of your MFA, it was required that you take a poetics class and that you study many different forms of poetry because the feeling was that no matter what you were going to be writing down the road, understanding meter and rhyme and all the aspects of writing good poetry helps you write better sentences too. So it's so important. I look forward, Margaret, to your presentation in the future because it's always great to get back to poetry. It helps all your writing styles.
Thank you, Louise. Although you scared me.
Well, we have just about 8 minutes left. Does anybody else have any other questions or anything they want to add?
I'd like to know what if you would care to share, and otherwise we can go immediately to Louise. But Tom, what was it about? Why were you scared of whatever Louise was talking about?
Well, when I went to that class, I told him that I just started writing poetry because it's really coming to me. I'm not like writing it. I feel like I'm a radio transmitter. It just comes and write it. But the first thing I asked him was, can poetry still rhyme? And he said, sure. So that was good because all my stuff was just rhyming. And it's very simple. And it leans in one direction. So I've just been letting it come and writing it down. So that's the way that's been happening, which is strange. And that happened to the second novel I wrote. Actually, I I finished it fairly quickly because I wanted to finish writing it to see how it ended, if that makes sense.
The first thing I ever published was a poem, and it came exactly that way. And before I had my head injury, all my writing came that way. I felt like there were characters that were just I was just transcribing their stories. I miss that, but
Yeah, it's fun because you just need to quiet down and allow it to happen. And it usually happens in the morning before I get up, and then I have to get up and write it down before I forget it.
yes.
Louise had asked, how does a person go about getting a beta group to read a draft of a novel? Is anybody? I don't think the network offers that per se. Carol, do you have any insight to that?
No,
Okay.
I have a couple of ideas that I thought that maybe we could go over, but I don't, offline, that not only for beta readers, but for critique groups and all of that sort of thing. It's the network kind of shies away from getting really involved
Mm-hmm.
and matching people up because sometimes it doesn't go well. When I first broached the subject with at Southern, who's the director of the network, and some of the other regional reps about trying to start critique groups, the answer was don't do it. So it may not end well at all. So, but as I say, I have a couple of ideas that maybe, and if anybody else has an idea on how we might be able to do this without the idea would be to let people get together and work together who want to do that. But
Yeah.
the network and Writers Morning Out and all of that would be just out of the picture.
Yeah, we shy away from matchmaking kind of in that sense. But
Yeah.
Kate did mention in the chat that she belongs to Poets and Writers, and that's been really helpful. So that might be a good resource for you, Louise.
Great. I know, like Julia, I know you've published at least one novel, more, I think. No, oh, I was thinking that you had. I was thinking that you had said you had a book out to a beta reading group. I wasn't thinking that it would be anyone in our immediate group. I just wondered if there was some way that you reach out somewhere and you find a group of people who like to read books, early drafts of books. But I'll continue to look for that. Yeah, Margaret, thank you.
Well,
I know somebody who was in a reading, had her own reading club, book club, and she asked the book club to read. So,
Absolute Right, which is online and worldwide. They have a section for people who ask for beta readers. You describe a little about what your book is, very little, maybe just the genre, and see what you get.
Would you repeat where that's from? It didn't come through.
Absolute Right.
Okay.
It's one word.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I just had, and I've done this, I just pick a group of people that I trust to give me honest feedback and that I know won't hate me or I won't hate them by the time we're done. And ask them. And I've been asked to read a series of novels that a friend just has been putting together to be a beta reader. And we've known each other long enough that we could be honest with each other and know that it won't end badly. And it's worked really well over time. So my thought.
There is a problem with asking people you know and people you like to read your book.
There can be.
And yeah, there's something to be said for having somebody way out there who might, represent the kind of people who would want to read your book but don't know you yet. It's tricky.
It is tricky. Yeah.
You know, if we were painters, we would hold up our painting and it would take a person, 2, maybe 5 minutes, right, to look at it and give you a quick response. Problem is, we're all artists of a different ilk, and it takes hours for somebody to absorb and respond to us. We're asking a huge ask of people to read a 300-page book. It's no small thing.
I don't know. I've been very fortunate to have belonged to workshops and stayed connected with people. And so I have a bunch of people who do beta reading for me and I do for them back.
Yeah.
And so.
Fantastic. How did you find them? Just through workshops that you had done?
Uh-huh.
Cool. I had hoped I would come out of the MFA program with a group like that, and I did not. Simply just it didn't happen. I tried to make it happen, but the commitment's not there. It's a huge commitment.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. I am so grateful that you all showed up on this very gloomy Saturday. Next month, Louise and Les are going to be presenting on understanding literary magazines. So all about submitting to small presses and literary magazines. So be sure to meet us for that. That will be February 21st. February 14th, we will also do our Writers Discuss Writing again, just an open forum, not unlike today, where you can discuss everything going on in your writing life, both good and bad, challenging and fun. So we hope to see you all next month. And if anything comes up between now and then, don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Carol. So wishing you all the best. Thank you all.
Everybody. Bye.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you.
Wonderful
Thanks, Carol. It was
presentation today.
Really helpful. Took a lot of good notes.
Yep. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you.